everybody, and welcome to this video on the hyperbola. In this video, we will be having a look at the intercepts of the hyperbola. So there are two types of intercepts that we look at in this video. It is the X-intercept and the Y-intercept. To get the X-intercept, what we have to do is we have to make Y equal 0 and solve for X. And if we would like to get the Y-intercept, we make X equals 0 and solve for Y. So those are the steps on how to get the intercepts, and they're the same for any function, whether it is a straight line graph, a parabola, a hyperbola, whatever the case is. However, what we need to note for the hyperbola is if Y is equal to 0 is an asymptote. So we did cover what is an asymptote in the previous video, and please have a look at that. But if the line Y is equal to 0 is an asymptote, a line which the graph does not touch, then there will be no X-intercept. Similarly, if X is equal to 0 is an asymptote, then there will be no Y-intercept. So that is the special part of the hyperbola that make it slightly different from the other graphs, is that sometimes we might not get an X or Y-intercept because they are asymptotes. So let's do a little exercise. So the first one we have Y is equal to minus 3 over X. So what I'm going to do first is just write out the asymptotes. So the asymptotes from this graph is X is equal to P star, which is 0 in this case, and Y is equal to Q, which is again 0. If you're unsure on how we got this, please watch our previous video on the asymptotes. So those are the asymptotes, and we see that this is the equation of the y-axis, and this is the equation of the x-axis. So this graph has no x-intercept, and it has no y-intercept. Why does it not have that? Because they are asymptotes, so the graph won't touch it, yet alone intercept. Let us have a look at this one, and before we're going to just say what are the asymptotes so that we can see if we're going to have both X and Y intercept. So the one is X is equal to P star, which tells us to remember to change the sign of that. So it's X is equal to 1, negative 1, because it's 1 in the equation. And then our Q value is 0, so we have our other axis is Y is equal to 0. So this here is the equation of the x-axis, so there will be no x-intercept. So first of all, let's say that there's no x-intercept. Why? Because y is equal to 0 is an asymptote. So when there's an asymptote of that line, there's no intercept. But there is a y-intercept. So there's no problem with making x equal 0 because our other asymptote is not 0. So let's do that. So we have y is equal to minus 3 times 0 plus 1. So y is equal to minus 3. Therefore, our y-intercept is 0 and negative 3. Okay, let's have a look at another one. So in this one over here, we have, let's first get our asymptotes because that method really helps. So our asymptote is X is equal to 0 because our P value is 0, and this is the equation of the y-axis. And our other asymptote is Y is equal to minus 4. So we know that we're going to have no y-intercept because X is equal to 0 is an asymptote. So we're not going to have a y-intercept. So we can have an x-intercept though, because we don't have an issue with 0. Y, this asymptote is not 0, so we can have an x-intercept. So how do we get our x-intercept? We make y equal 0. So then I'm going to take the 4 over, and it's equal to 2 over x. I'm going to cross multiply. 4x is equal to 2, so x is equal to 2 over 4. So x is equal to 1/2. So our x-intercept is 1/2 and 0 with no y-intercept. Let's have a look at this one over here. Our asymptote is x is equal to 2. Remember to change the sign for the 2 one. And y is equal to 1. We don't change the sign for y. So this one here, there's no problem with either of our intercepts. So we'll have both an X and a Y-intercept. So get our X-intercept, we make Y equals 0. So we have 0 is equal to 1 over X minus 2 plus 1. Take that over, minus 1 is equal to 1 over X minus 2. We're going to cross multiply. Minus 1 times X minus 2 is equal to 1. So minus X plus 2 is equal to 1. We can take that 2 over, so minus X is 1 minus 2, which is minus 1, and divide both sides by minus 1, and we get X is equal to 1. So our X-intercept is 0 and 1. For our Y-intercept, we make X equals 0. So this here is Y is equal to 1 over 0 minus 2 plus 1. So it's minus a half plus 1, which is a half. So our Y-intercept is 0 and a half. Please have a look at this video carefully to understand the X and Y intercepts of the hyperbola. If you are unsure on how to calculate your asymptotes, please watch our previous video first.